I'm 17 years old here for not forgiving my dad for what he said. My dad, a 45-year-old male, is really into cars. His dad, my grandpa, is also into cars. My grandpa used to work in a mechanic shop, and my dad learned to work on cars with him. They can talk for hours about different car models and engines and tell stories about cars they've worked on. I'm not really into them, though. My dad tried to get me into fixing up cars with him, but it just doesn't click with me. I know basic stuff like how to change a tire or oil and how to jumpstart the battery because he taught me, and I'm glad for it. But talking about cars and working on them for fun, I'm just not into it. I always thought my dad was okay with me not being a car guy. However, 5 months ago, we got these new neighbors that moved next door. It's a married couple, and their nephew Mason, a 16-year-old male, lives with them. Mason and I go to school together. At first, I helped show them around school until he got comfortable and made his own friends. He and I still talk, but we don't hang out. Mason is like my dad and grandpa. He's obsessed with talking about cars and has a whole list of cars he wants to drive and own one day. He would come over with his aunt and uncle, and a lot of times, Mason and his uncle would hang out with my dad in the garage. Sometimes I'd be there too, but usually it's just them. My dad usually works on his project car in the garage every other weekend for a couple of hours. For Father's Day this year, he said he wanted to be able to work on his car all day uninterrupted, which my mom agreed to. Whenever he works on his car, he leaves the garage door open. Mason had been coming by when my dad works on it for the past couple of months, and he talks to my dad and sometimes helps him out with smaller stuff related to the car. I don't really care. My dad does other stuff with me on Sundays. I want to go and ask him something when he was in the garage with Mason. The door from the house to the garage was open, and him and Mason were talking. I was waiting by the door for a chance to speak, but I didn't want to interrupt their conversation. My dad was praising Mason for whatever he had done, and Mason said he had done that with his dad. My dad told Mason his dad would be proud of him. Then he said Mason was the kind of son that he wanted to have. I don't know why, but that really hurt to hear. I never thought that me not being into cars was an issue for my dad. I knew he still loved me, but I guess it's not enough. I didn't say anything and just went back to my room. He doesn't know that I know what he said, and I've been ignoring him since then. I still answer him when he asks me questions or tells me to do something, but I just don't want to talk to him anymore. My mom, a 43-year-old female, has asked me if something is wrong, but I lie and say no. I thought they would just let it go, but a few days ago, I messed up and told my older sister, a 19-year-old female, what happened because she kept asking. Now she's not talking to my dad either, and she's being a lot meaner to him about it. But I made her promise not to tell anyone the reason, so she's keeping her word. It's really tense in our house right now. My parents keep asking us why we're mad at our dad, but neither of us are answering. I don't know. I feel like maybe I should just let it go and go back to the way things were. I really don't want to, though. My dad is disappointed in who I am, and I'm the scapegoat. Here if I don't forgive my dad now. Absolutely, I can't blame you for feeling the way you do. I can't imagine walking in and hearing those words. You know, it's something you can't take back. It's something like Op said themselves. It's going to sting, hurt to hear that they want you to be someone else. And look, you don't owe him forgiveness if you don't want to give that. But part of me says that you should tell him that you did hear this, just so he knows how much those words did hurt. Again, you don't have to forgive him for it. This is simply the truth of what you've heard. Beck says, Dad, I get you're disappointed that I'm not into cars like you and Grandpa. It's just not my thing. I do appreciate how you taught me the basics, but when I went to the garage to see you on Father's Day, I heard you tell Mason that he was the kind of son you wanted, or wished you had. You have any idea how hurtful that is on Father's Day? I got to hear my dad tell someone else that they were the type of kid he wanted. So yeah, I'm hurt. You said it so casually, and on Father's Day, not the least other commenter says, not the slightest for anything that you were feeling or not being able to forgive him. However, you should probably give him the chance to apologize and make amends for hurting you. From what you described, you know he never wanted to hurt you this way. He cares, or he wouldn't be concerned about why you're upset. So give him the chance to make it up to you. He might mess it up. You know him better than I do. But you'll feel better about not being able to forgive him if he messes up again or doesn't feel the need to apologize or make amends. If you don't feel comfortable taking it to him directly, start with your mom or request a session with a family therapist. Hope your replies then. I'm more upset at him saying it in the first place. Even if he felt that way, why couldn't he just keep that thought to himself? If I tell my mom, she's going to confront him. I know it. Commenter reply saying, "You're absolutely right to be upset. I didn't mean to downplay what he said, and I'm sorry if I came off that way. Your father should be ashamed for even thinking such a thing, let alone voicing it. He owes you an apology and an attempt at making amends. As a member of a family, the only thing you owe him is communication. To be clear, that means you do not owe him forgiveness, no matter how good his apology or amends are. If it was unforgivable to you, then it's unforgivable. But wouldn't you rather live in a world where your father found a way to make this okay? It might not be possible, but you can, and in my opinion, should give him the chance to try." Op responds saying, "You didn't downplay anything, to be honest. I'm just here to complain because I keep hearing what he said playing on a loop in my head. I don't know how he's supposed to make it okay. He can't make me unhear it. Understand what you're saying though, and thank you for taking the time to say it." Commenter replies saying he can't unsay anything he can say, and do a heck of a lot of stuff to replace that reoccurring thought with, though, give you the memory of a sincere apology that you can play over when it crops up. For example, you could do it for yourself, starting right now. Yell something you're proud of yourself, or back at your dad's voice. "Yeah, well, I'm the goat at chemistry, Fortnite, whatever." His apology would probably be better ammo, but letting these hurtful words play on repeat isn't doing you any good. "Sorry, my wife's a therapist. I hand out her skills like candy." 3 days later, Op comes in with an update and says, "So, I guess my post was put up and my inbox was flooded with a bunch of new comments and DMS. There's too many to read, but thank you for everyone telling me that I'm not wrong for not wanting to forgive my dad, because it hurts knowing that he said that, regardless of why he said it. I got a lot of questions, but I've answered two important ones. My dad had asked to be left alone to work on his car, but it's not because he didn't want to spend Father's Day with us. He had a special breakfast for him, and we gave him his gifts in the morning. The incident happened in the late afternoon. My mom usually wants to be left alone to work on our art projects or read one of her books on Mother's Day too. It's not that they don't want to spend the day with us. They just like to be able to focus on their hobbies without having to worry about household or family duties for a few hours. It's normal in my family for my mom and dad to give each other breaks or a day off sometimes. Another thing is, my dad didn't invite Mason to work on the car with him. He did tell Mason a while back that if the garage door is open, then Mason is free to walk in and chat. That's what Mason usually does. My dad doesn't talk to him outside of when Mason comes over by himself or with his aunt and uncle. I don't think my dad even has Mason's number. They're not really close. They just both like cars. I know most people told me to tell my mom or dad, or both, about what I heard. I was kind of hoping the tension would go away and just be forgotten, but I know that's dumb and not realistic. But I really didn't want to have that conversation, so I just kept quiet. Things got really bad today. My sister and I still were mostly ignoring our dad, and my mom would keep asking us a bunch of questions, guessing reasons why we were mad. I thought she gave up, but earlier today, she said we're going to have a family game night tonight, which we never really do. I really didn't feel like doing that, but I was going to sit there and just deal with it. But my sister told Mom we won't be joining if Dad is there. My mom asked why, but my sister just said he knows what he did. So my mom went to talk to our dad, and like an hour later, she made us all sit down in the living room to talk. My dad was mad now. He told us we need to say whatever is on our minds, because now our mom is asking us if we caught him cheating on her or something. She was running out of theories for why we were mad. To be fair, she guessed it right on the second day, asking if he had something to make me mad or upset, but I lied and said no at the time. She says she knows it has something to do with me because I was mad at him first. I finally told her what I overheard my dad say. My mom was shocked, and my dad immediately denied it, which really sucked because if he thought it and said it out loud, he could at least also have the balls to admit it. But he didn't. He kept saying he didn't say that, but I told him I know what I heard. He tried to lie and say that what he said was that Mason's dad would be proud of him. That's true, and that if Mason was his son, he'd be proud of the kind of person he was. That's a lie. He didn't say that. My sister got mad and told him to stop gaslighting me. Then they argued for a couple of minutes until my mom stopped them. My mom asked me if I was sure what I heard, and I said yes. I told her exactly what he said to Mason. Your dad would be proud of you. I know I would be. You're exactly the kind of son I wanted to have. I know that because I keep hearing my dad's voice saying it over and over in my head. I've been hearing it whenever I look at him since that day. My mom turned to my dad and started yelling at him for saying that. So, my dad finally admitted it, but said that I misunderstood him. He says he was trying to make Mason feel better because Mason was sad and kept talking about his dad who died because it was Father's Day. My dad wasn't trying to put me down or say that I was a disappointment to him. He said he was sorry and tried to hug me, but I was honestly mad that he denied it at first, so I didn't let him. My mom didn't accept his reasoning either. She said that Mason, his aunt, and uncle aren't invited anymore, and that we're just going to be neighbors from now on, and that's it. I feel bad because they didn't do anything wrong, but my mom kept going and telling my dad that he needs to stop spending so much time on his stupid car and start paying more attention to his family. He really doesn't spend a lot of time on it, maybe like 2 days out of the month for 3 to 4 hours. I think she was just really mad at him, which is what I was worried about. So, my dad shouted that he would just get rid of the car then, since everyone suddenly has a problem with his hobby. He left to my uncle's house, his brother, after that, and I don't think he's coming back tonight. I feel really bad. I should have just let it go. I really want to, but I can't. If he hadn't tried to lie and just said sorry, maybe I would have accepted his apology, and this would be done. I'm not even really mad anymore. I just feel like a failure. I wish I could have just been more into cars, then this whole thing would have never happened. Sorry, it's not a happy update, but a lot of people were asking for one. I hope he comes back home soon. The first commentary on that update said, "It's not your fault. That's a whole mess of issues here that might need some family therapy to help resolve." Material Tree says, "You are who you are and like what you like. You shouldn't have to force yourself to like your dad's hobbies for his approval or anything else. You are not a failure, and there's nothing for you to feel bad about. Your dad is the failure in this situation and a tantrum-throwing liar too." Lopi says, "Everyone was ganging up on him, so I don't know if I'd blame him for leaving. I'd probably do the same thing if I was him. To be honest, the leaving part, not the lying and denial part." My mom says he's probably just embarrassed about the whole thing and that we all need to cool off right now, but he'll be back tomorrow. But you said you don't blame him for leaving. You would do the same thing if you were him, like if everyone was ganging up on you. But at the same time, you wouldn't have done what your dad did in that situation. So you wouldn't have found yourself in that situation to begin with. Which Polka says, "Dude, everyone was ganging up on him because what he said is super messed up, and he refused to admit to it. He's a coward. I know he's your dad and you love him, but you are finally seeing his fault. As a kid who idolizes his dad yet can't connect with him like other kids, I know that hurts. It tears you inside. It's your father's fault, kid, not yours. It's on your father to find a way to work on his own feelings, but not let them affect his kids. That's the bare minimum of what any good father does. Now he's mad because he knows he's wrong, but he's stubborn. So the last thing he'll do is admit that. So he needs to be the victim for the behavior to be justified. So he makes himself the victim." Hope says, "I'm not saying he didn't deserve to have everyone telling him he was wrong. I'm just saying having your whole family take turns yelling at you is a lot, even if it is his fault. I don't blame him for leaving, I just want him to come back now. And I hate that it turned into an issue of him working on his car because it wasn't even about that. It was supposed to be about what he said." Comer says, "From the way your mom reacted, it seems like it was a bigger issue than just that. Maybe you help your mom finally put her foot down on this." Material Tree says, "Your mom is probably right. He was embarrassed his lies didn't hold up, embarrassed he was caught saying that, and embarrassed that your mom was rightfully calling him out. Hopefully, once emotions are cool, you guys can talk things out, and he gives you the apology he owes you. Please remember, the fault here is with one person, and you are not him." I hope you respond by saying, "This might sound stupid, because no one here really knows my dad or our relationship, but he did mean the apology he gave me. He said, 'Hey, I'm sorry, bud,' and tried to hug me. He calls me bud when he's being 100% serious about something, like telling me someone's in the hospital. It's kind of serious, And he sounded completely genuine when he said that. I just hate that he didn't start there, instead of trying to lie his way out first. Comer says, nah, that doesn't sound stupid at all. You know him and experienced him in that moment, so I do believe you. But as a parent and as a daughter with a dad like that, I can't help but be angry for you. I spent most of my life doing what I thought would earn his admiration, or at the very least, his attention. Nothing worked, and it sucked because none of it fit my interests. I don't want that for anyone else. You're absolutely right that he should have owned up to his mistake instead of compounding it. You deserve so much better than his words and actions. And I hope he can be better from now on, and that your relationship with him gets better in time. The final comment says, hey, I know you might not feel this yet, but you did some brave, important things in that conversation. You told the truth, and you stood up for yourself. Your dad lied and deflected and stormed off for reasons that have nothing to do with you and everything to do with his emotional maturity. That's a tough thing to learn because, as kids, it feels safer to believe that we're the problem because then we can fix it. But this isn't on you. Try to be kind to yourself and maybe spend some time with your mom or sister or friends who make you feel good. Maybe says, thank you for saying this. I really needed to hear some of that. Some of the comments talk about the immaturity of him stomping off, which always brings me back to that book, Now When A, by Lindsay C. Gibson, Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. I'm not saying it's directly linked to this particular situation, but it always pops into my head, and I always like to give it a plug when I can because it's a great book. If you ever do get to hear this, you did absolutely nothing wrong in this situation. Remember that. You didn't cause this. All you did was tell the truth. You have to think about what the alternative was here. That you sit on this information and let it fester. That's not healthy at all. So, getting this information out there and confronting it is a great way. Maybe even family therapy, like one of the commenters said. But can I just say, the sister in this scenario, what a legend. Definitely needs someone like her in your corner, don't you? Now, I'm going to turn this one over to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. Our next story is from KindPlane7403 from the Am I the Assistant? No update is yet, but it says, Am I the Assistant? For doing a half-assed job taking family pictures at a wedding after being told to shut up and stop being a smartass? I was taking pictures at a family wedding as a favor. I was being paid about half of what I normally charge, and I was fine with it. The bride is my favorite cousin, and her husband is amazing. During the formals, the wedding party was great, and I got lots of great shots. When it came time to take pictures of different family groups with the couple, people were distracted. They wouldn't stop talking or looking away from the camera. I tried politely reminding everyone that the camera was the big black thing on the tripod and that it took still images, not video. I was repeatedly told to shut up and stop being a smartass, and that they knew what a camera was. I asked my wife to record video of the responses for me. My cousin was delighted with the pictures from the ceremony, the formals, and the reception. She laughed her ass off at the family pictures. About half of them, people are looking off in all directions instead of at the camera. In most of those, there are also people with their mouths open. She thought they were hilarious, and her husband agreed. I started getting criticism on social media from my family about the terrible pictures. I replied that I had tried to explain to them that the camera was the big black thing on the tripod, and it only took still pictures. They said I should have waited for them to be ready. So I started posting the short video clips of people being jackasses towards me. My mom said I went too far, and that they won't ask me to take pictures for them again. I did a fake cry and said boo-hoo, and she called me a smart aleck. Please let me state that I do not think I'm the wrong one in this situation, but many people do. They're upset because they don't often dress up and get together, and they didn't get good pictures. In the comments, Baser Ranch says, not the wrong one. The photos are an accurate reflection of their behavior on the day. Only the people's opinions matter about the photos of the bride and groom that hired you. If they like it, then no issues. They've embarrassed them, else, and don't like that their online tantrum turned around on them. It's easier to be right until the evidence comes forward. It sounds like they're your family members, and they were ignoring you and being rude. Maybe they thought they were being funny. Maybe they don't take you seriously as a professional. Whatever, that's their problem. You try to keep them on task. If they wanted nice, professional photos of themselves, they could have paid attention when photos were being taken. What did they think was going on? Another commentary quotes a bit about the cousin laughing her ass off and says, "This is all that matters, not the experience the others are experiencing." Textbook, digging around and find out that's their problem, and you pour in proof of their misbehavior is just more of that. You aren't the reason for defending yourself at all, particularly when the couple doesn't mind either. But now, I'm going to turn this one over to you guys.